everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about something that is current in the news. I'm just going to upload this as soon as I finish recording it. This is going to be sort of like a bonus video. I wanted to talk about the Universal Healthcare CEO shooting. I know that at this point, the suspect, I believe his name is Luigi Mangione, something like that. He is still just a suspect. He has not been found guilty of anything. But I wanted to just talk about him and what this sort of has brought up for a lot of people in this country. And so if you're not in the US, this might be a little bit over your head because you don't know about America's healthcare system, but it's still it's something that has struck a chord in a lot of Americans. It does seem to be, it's not a left or right issue. It seems to just be this thing that a lot of people have had a lot to say about. So I kind of wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk about this from the perspective of someone that also suffers with a chronic condition. So I don't condone what he did. I just want to be clear about that. I don't condone that type of violence. It's, the man that was killed was, I believe, a father. He had kids. So obviously that's going to be tough for his children growing up. But I think, like I said, I want to talk about this from the perspective of someone who is suffering from a chronic condition and who has often had to battle with the medical system or lack thereof here in the United States. So let's talk about what we know about this individual, Luigi. He was an Ivy League graduate. He's very intelligent. He was the valedictorian of his high school class. He comes from a very wealthy family that also had a healthcare related business. I believe they had a chain of nursing homes or something like that. So, this is somebody that is affluent, which is, I think, has surprised a lot of people to find out that this guy is not only affluent, but I believe his family is more conservative. They lean more conservative because I think they own like a conservative radio station or something like that. But he had some kind of a back issue. I think it was something like a spinal misalignment. This is just information that I've been able to get off the internet. It's been about a week since this incident happened, so we're just learning. He was just apprehended, I think, yesterday or the day before, so we're just now learning certain things about this guy. So he had a surgery, I think, for something called a spinal misalign, something like that. And he did upload like an x-ray of what was in his back now, which I think were like a few metal things. I don't know what it's called, but he did have something put into his like spine, I guess maybe to stabilize it. Friends have stated that he had a back issue that required surgery. He appears to be a very active, or he was a very active person. Another friend stated that that they would work out together, play volleyball, do yoga. I know that another friend stated that he surfed, and after going surfing, it would take him several days to recover because of the pain. So there is that little piece that that we really need to take into consideration. Obviously, I don't know what issues he's personally had with the medical system. It sounds like he got a surgery done, but I guess we really don't know the details behind that surgery and how he's been feeling lately. I think the surgery was also relatively recent, but I don't know exactly when. And I'm just going to say 26 is really young to be having back surgery. I have a couple of people in my family that have had back surgeries, even multiple back surgeries, but they were already, seniors, senior citizens. They were older. And the one thing that I have noticed, though, is that back surgeries don't seem to really help. They provide temporary relief, and then you're kind of back at square one. So being 26 years old and dealing with something like this is that's very, very young. Um, he, I think, had been living with roommates in Hawaii most recently. I don't know, because I think he was out in New York when this shooting happened. His mother filed a missing persons report a few weeks before the shooting, but she filed it in San Francisco. So there's a lot of different things going on. So here's a couple of other things. One friend stated that Luigi had told him that he was having difficulty having physical relationships with women. And I mean, you can put the pieces together. I'm pretty sure I don't have to spell it out for you guys. There was a quote that Luigi had posted somewhere saying, "It's absolutely brutal to have such a life halting issue." And he also claimed that he suffered from brain fog and sciatica. So this is, these are the things that we know regarding his health, regarding maybe any possible motive behind shooting this CEO of United Healthcare. United Healthcare is known for having a very high rate of denials for medical claims, and they even use like an AI algorithm to deny medical claims. So that's another piece, of the puzzle there. The one thing that I will say is that when you become sick, and we did, I talked about this in other videos. One of my videos recently became very popular. It's the one on depression and isolation. And those of us that suffer from chronic conditions become very isolated, especially if it affects your mobility. If you're actually dealing with severe physical pain, you become immobile and you can't do even basic things such as, personal care things like showering, cooking, things like that. So a lot of us, with the advent of the internet, I didn't grow up with the internet. I mean, the internet was barely becoming a thing when I was younger, but now as an adult, the internet is there, and it can be a place to find solace and to find, friends, and to find community for those of us that can't really get out and find actual people in real life. But it is also becoming a big problem when it comes to radicalization. Now, they do talk about certain content that he was consuming, but they haven't really been specific yet. He was reading certain books and things like that. But I don't really see anything major yet when it comes to the internet. I think he was consuming some red pill content, which, is also becoming a big issue when it comes to, internet, misinformation and things like that. But being in pain is very isolating. And for those of us, like I said, that we're just at home, we're stuck on our phones, or stuck on our laptops. If you're bedridden, the easiest thing to do is just to have your phone and just be browsing through social media. You can read the news off of your phone. You can do, our smartphones have become a window to the world. And I'll tell you right now, every morning I wake up, the first thing I do is get my smartphone before I get out of bed, and I scroll through social media, scroll through the news, and then, once I'm ready to get out of bed at 9 a.m., my Google Home automatically gives me the news. So we are connected. We're disconnected, but also connected 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's all kinds of information and misinformation at our fingertips. So I think more will come out as to what he was consuming on the internet, and whether that may have radicalized him. I mean, he's a very educated individual. I think he has a master's degree in computer science. So, he's maybe he started researching. Maybe he started looking at other people's stories. We don't know. But I think that, when you're in pain and when you're suffering, you turn to anything that's easily accessible. And the internet, like I said, is in the palm of your hand. In my opinion, this is an issue that goes far beyond health insurance. Obviously, this has brought our health insurance system into the spotlight here in the United States. People get denied for things, for care that they really need. I've been reading story after story of just regular Americans talking about their own insurance denial experiences or that of their family members. There are a lot of people that know someone that died because they were denied a treatment that they needed, or they couldn't get the treatment they needed in time. But there's a lot of us that also just didn't have insurance. I didn't have insurance for 7 years, the first 7 years of my chronic illness. And I emptied out my bank accounts multiple times because I did not have medical insurance to, pay for medications or whatever it was that I needed. And also just out of desperation, going to chiropractors, going to whoever would listen, and just dumping thousands of dollars on treatments that just didn't work. And I've still done it recently. You know, Sick people are easy to ignore, especially those of us that are homebound and those of us that really can't fight and say anything. And so he, even though he had this pain issue, he still was able to do something. And I think, if you're sick and in pain, but you're still mobile and you're still able to a certain extent, I think that could also be a dangerous combination. There are a lot of people that are just, I think most people are too sick to really fight back or to even advocate for themselves. Chronic fatigue, people with chronic fatigue are a classic example of this. I mean, there's millions of people around the world with chronic fatigue syndrome, and they do their best to advocate from their beds. But when you're not visible, when you can't actually go out into the world and speak on your behalf, you're easy to ignore. I see the same thing happening with long COVID. There are doctors that do believe that long COVID is a real thing, and there's evidence that long COVID is a real thing. But other doctors came out immediately, during the pandemic and during that time, and immediately started saying that it was just BS. There will always be doctors to tell patients that what they're experiencing isn't real. And they can, because these patients can't fight back. Sometimes they can't even make it to the clinic to get checked out. So, doctors are aware of this, and a lot of doctors do take advantage of that. There, I think, is also another lesson in this, in that money can't buy you health. This guy was incredibly wealthy. His grandfather was a multimillionaire, and I think their family even donated to local medical centers and things like that. But one of the things that I've noticed in my own journey being chronically ill is that there is a difference between, people that are wealthy and chronically ill and people that are poor and chronically ill. I think it's just a given that poor people will have worse health outcomes and will suffer from more chronic health problems. When it comes to a wealthy person dealing with chronic health problems, it's more unusual. And I think it's even more distressing. People that are born into wealth live in comfort for most of their lives until they become sick. And I think they have a harder time understanding why they're sick and why they're in pain. Even when they've dropped thousands of dollars on every type of different treatment that they can find, and they're still not feeling well. So, people who live in privilege and comfort their whole lives will have a lower threshold for discomfort, as opposed to those of us who've suffered all of our lives and who really didn't expect not to suffer. So, I think that for him, it was very distressing. He was a very active individual. He, like I said, he did surfing, yoga, you can see there are shirtless pictures of this guy online, and he was fit. He looked like he worked out. And to have that taken away from you, or to suddenly be limited, and again, he might have been at the beginning of his chronic pain journey, right? We don't know when he had this surgery. It sounds like it was fairly recently. So he might have just been suffering in pain for a couple of years, or a year. So he's just at the beginning. And, when the pain doesn't go away, when you've had the pain for a year, when you've had the pain for 2 years, when you've had the pain for 3 years, you slowly start to realize it's not going to go away. Um, and that can be a brutal reality. And a lot of you guys know what that's like. I know what that's like, to realize, this illness is not going away, and it's even sometimes getting worse. And it takes a few years. You still think, I mean, even at this point, I'm almost 20 years in, and I still think that at some point we're going to figure this out. And you hold on to that hope, and that's sometimes the only thing that's keeping us alive. But, you know, like I said, the threshold for me, the threshold for pain and the threshold for discomfort was pretty high. I was not raised in comfort. I was not raised in privilege. So suffering has just always been a part of my life. But for someone where that wasn't the norm, this was just a complete, like he said, it was a life halting situation, and he was no longer able to live his life the way he previously had. I think what a lot of people, are on his side. And I will tell you, his experience is not like a lot of ours, those of us that are not wealthy. What possessed him to do this, and what opened his eyes to the realities of the healthcare system in the United States, I don't know. We will probably find out. Like I said, he was an educated individual. He might have just researched it himself, or maybe just from his own experience. But a lot of people are saying that this is now a class war, that it's the poor against the rich. But I don't see it that way. The only way that I see change happening with our healthcare system, with healthcare in general in this country, is the rich fighting the rich. And I think that's exactly what this demonstrates. He's a wealthy kid, he's a privileged kid, and he made this statement, not on behalf of poor people, but probably on behalf of himself and his own suffering. And we are seeing this sort of, the rich battling each other here in the United States. We see, the Elon Musks, and then we see the Melinda Gates. Melinda Gates, who is donating to women's causes and, helping uplift women and children and families. And then you have somebody like Elon, who is saying that, she's a cancer on society. I do think that it's going to come down to the rich standing up for the poor, or at least bringing consciousness to issues that affect the poor. And that's exactly what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been doing for such a long time. And now, as some of you may know, Melinda has branched out, and she has her own foundation now. And she's focusing on certain things. And I believe one of them is women's health care. So, for me, I this was a horrible thing to happen, but it has, sparked this big discussion in the United States about healthcare. I have been on, I can't say that I have had some claims denied, or I've been, I've gotten billed for things, and I've had to fight insurance companies and make phone calls and all of that. I've had to fight doctors. I can't go into detail on all of those things. I have lost thousands and thousands of dollars paying out-of-pocket costs to doctors that my insurance just won't cover. I'm currently under Medicare because I am fully disabled. One thing I will tell you is that since being on Medicare, I have been able to achieve financial stability. It took a while to get onto Medicare. I had to hire an attorney. I had to fight, to get qualified for Medicare. A doctor had to fill out paperwork and prove that I had, something that wasn't allowing me to work. But like I said, I was broke. I emptied my bank account multiple times. I was uninsured. Even when I had insurance, it was like an HMO that wouldn't cover anything. Then I got under my husband's insurance, which did cover quite a few things, and then I ended up losing that insurance and eventually needing to go on Medicare because I was completely disabled. And since I've been on Medicare, I've finally been able to save money, have a savings, and get back to a financially stable situation. So I do think to a certain extent, a sort of universal healthcare system would help people from poverty, from getting into poverty because of ridiculous medical bills or just being uninsured. Do I continue to pay out of pocket costs for certain doctors? Yes. And that, like I said, is a bigger issue with medicine here in the United States, which I probably would have to cover in another video because that's another situation. Um, but at the very least, I can go to urgent care and it's covered. I can see, my primary care doctor and it's covered. I can get a referral and it's covered. I can have tests done and they're covered. I mean, this year alone, I think I had actually last year I had an ultrasound and an MRI. I have blood work constantly. I have more blood work coming up. I have, I mean, I've been at urgent care monthly, sometimes more than once a month. That out of pocket would, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it. And so I can understand the despair that people have when they're drowning in debt because because of a medical bill. And you'll see many stories like that on the internet. I mean, you just have to just look in the comments section of any video regarding the gunman and this incident. And there are people sharing stories of, insurance denials and, somebody that they know that became very sick because they couldn't get the treatment that they needed. I mean, it's everywhere here in this country. Is universal health care the answer to everything? No, because we know that the systems in Canada and the UK have their own drawbacks, but it would definitely keep people out of poverty or, out of severe debt that's life altering. Um, I think this guy acted out of desperation, and I get it. When you're constantly sick, when you constantly have pain, when you constantly don't feel well, when you can't function, when you can't do the regular things that other people do, like he stated, to his friend that he couldn't be physical with women because it was painful. A lot of us know that reality, and it takes away from your humanity. It takes away from just being able to interact with other people. I mean, some of us can't even go out and socialize with other people. Um, and you get to a level of desperation where you'll do something out of character because it seems like this was out of character for him based on what his friends are saying. Um, I don't think I would ever do something this extreme, but you get to a point where you want to scream at people. I mentioned actually recently in a therapy session that I find myself having a shorter and shorter fuse. I get very upset by very small things. And I get to the point where I just feel like I'm going to scream at someone in a store or out in public. And a lot of that comes from just the constant suffering, the constant discomfort, or the constant pain of a chronic condition. And I I can definitely understand if he has been in pain, he probably didn't know where to put his anger, and this was probably the place to put that he felt was the most appropriate to put it. And like I said, I don't condone that behavior, but I do understand it on a very personal level, and I know a lot of you may also get it. But we can't lose our humanity. Even if these insurance companies have we cannot lose our humanity, and we have to focus on the bigger issue and try to continue to vote and continue to fight for you know, these basic rights that I believe that we're entitled to. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I know this was a long one. I just had to say my piece. And if you guys have any comments, leave them down below. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.